Ahoy hoy, I'm Planet Walk, and I have heard some wacky stuff during my time on YouTube. I mean, flat earthers always seem to be trying to say as much ridiculous stuff as they can.
I'm literally showing you a picture of the laser bending right now. I'm literally showing you it. It's right there, right in front of you.
Something's wrong with that laser, man, because they don't bend like that.
This is why I'm always surprised when I see someone who is not a flat earther who says something that's just absolutely insane. Now today's video might actually be about a flat earther. Given what they say in the video, it makes sense that they're either a flat earther or a geocentrist. The person I'm talking about, of course, is Nick Fuentes. Now you might be saying, wait, he's not a flat earther or he's not a geocentrist. To which I say, just wait, there is a good reason why I said that. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the sheer insanity that Nick Fuentes has to say.
We have got to talk about the fundamentals of our worldview and what it would look like to build a society based on our distinct worldview, which is different from the left, different from a godless, atheist, constructivist, liberal worldview.
I know all of those things are meant to sound bad, but they don't really sound all that bad to me. Except for maybe the liberal part, especially if we're talking about neoliberalism. Like, having a godless society doesn't really sound too bad, because most atheists I meet are generally nice people. Yes, there are terrible people that are atheists, but there are terrible people in any religion. So as much as people might try to fearmonger about atheists causing the downfall of civilization, that is simply just not going to happen. I think it's far more likely that fascists, like Nick Fuentes, would cause the downfall of civilization instead. Now, as for a constructivist worldview, I fail to see how that is bad. I mean, when people do learn new information, they tend to try and incorporate it into their existing beliefs. Like, we all know the Christians, right, who do believe that science is correct about things, right? By learning new information, they haven't changed previous ideas. Instead, what they've done is they've incorporated new ideas into their beliefs. But who knows, maybe I'm just reading too much into what Nick Fuentes is saying.
And what does that look like? Does that look like a society where you have gay marriage and birth control and contraceptives and legal, ubiquitous internet pornography and all the rest, but transgender kids aren't playing in girls' water polo? No.
I mean, having none of the things that you listed there sounds terrible. It sounds like a recipe for an absolute disaster. It sounds like you'd just get a whole lot of poverty from that.
That's not what it looks like. It looks like a society where women don't have the right to vote.
So something that I really don't get is how people don't want women to have the right to vote. Like, what are you worried will happen if women can vote? It's very much like saying that gingers shouldn't be able to vote. Now, I know that some people try to bring up the draft as an excuse, but, you know, maybe you could just get rid of the draft or just include women in the draft. I think getting rid of the draft might actually be a good idea, seeing as firstly, it's not really used, and secondly, I'd prefer people to have the freedom to not fight in a war that they don't want to fight in. Either way, if you think that a draft that hasn't been utilised in ages is reason enough for people not to have the right to vote, then maybe put your efforts more towards changing the draft.
And it looks like a society where boys and girls get married as teenagers and start having kids, and they don't use birth control, and they don't use contraceptives, and they have big families and a high birth rate.
1 second here. Nick Fuentes' wife. Control F, wife. He's not married, is he? Why am I not surprised that he identifies as an incel? Wonder why. And apparently he says that having sex with women is gay. Yeah, this person is completely unhinged. From what he said there, I honestly think that Nick Fuentes is just mad that no woman wants to sleep with him. I'm sorry, Nick, but that does not justify taking away people's rights and teenage marriage. And also, what he proposes there, again, it's just not going to work out for people. Like, I don't know if Nick Fuentes is aware of this, but we live in the 21st century, and one of the things about the 21st century is that in some areas, the world is a little bit overpopulated. The solution to that, of course, is not to make people have as many kids as they can, because if you have more kids, surprise, surprise, things become more crowded. Sometimes it's hard enough for one person to pay rent for a single room. Imagine having to pay rent for a house large enough for a huge family to live in. But you know, maybe it can be done if both the mother and father work. And I'm taking a guess that his views on women in the workforce would not allow for that.
And it looks like women wearing veils at church. And it looks like women not being in the workforce.
So I legitimately actually forgot that he said that. Although given everything that he said, his views on that aren't really all that difficult to figure out, to be honest. Also, I'm not really sure why he wants women to wear veils in church. I do think that it's just another excuse for him to be able to control women.
And it looks like mothers raising their kids, and it looks like pornography being banned.
Look, Nick, I'm sure if you got your way about all this, you would probably actually want pornography to be made legal. I don't know, something about your hypothetical wife having to spend 99% of her time raising 10 kids makes me think that kind of thing, you know? Although I am assuming there that Nick Fuentes would actually have empathy, which kind of seems unlikely.
And homosexuality and transsexuality, as well as heterosexual sodomy, as well as fornication and adultery being shamed by the society, and maybe in some places, in some jurisdictions, regulated by the law.
I mean, in some places it already is shamed by society. And, you know, we tried all that, but it didn't really work out. People like having rights. This is why I call Nick Fuentes unhinged. He has a very childish understanding of the world. He doesn't seem to realize that almost everything that he is proposing is bad. He seems to think that if you get married, then it's just sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. I've clearly been in more relationships than Nick Fuentes has, and honestly, marriage wouldn't have made any of them better. Having kids certainly wouldn't have done that either. There's one relationship that I remember that, if I had to be stuck in that relationship for the rest of my life, that certainly wouldn't be enjoyable for either of us. Things don't always work out how you'd like them to work out, and to think that they would if you just got married at a young age is just childish thinking.
It's not enough to say we're against you gotta be against women's rights too.
I wonder how many people actually agree with this guy, because it really doesn't seem like a rational person would agree with Nick. I don't even think that most conservatives would agree with Nick. Most conservatives seem to agree that women should have rights.
It's not enough to be against blue-haired feminism, you gotta be against women getting educated.
I get the feeling that Nick Fuentes isn't just against women getting educated, but he's against education in general. Especially seeing as the more educated you are, the more you tend to agree that people should have rights. Although I suppose he would agree that at least one person in the family needs to know how to count, because otherwise kids would go missing and you just wouldn't know.
Or else, what are we really trying to achieve here? 1999? 1999 sucked too. We want to go back to 1099. We want to go back to the Middle Ages.
You say that as you use a modern computer. Also, people tended to die a lot from disease and stuff back in 1099. It's not something that I really want to bring back. I can assure you that as much as you may try to believe, the Middle Ages were not some kind of paradise. Yes, there are problems today, but that's because there have always been problems in the world. They're not going to be fixed by going back to 1099 when we'd have more problems.
So, we're burning your gay pride flag, we're burning your gay pride float, and then we're gonna drag your wife out of her house kicking and screaming, and then we're gonna burn her at the stake too for being a witch.
So that has to be a joke, right? Like, he can't seriously believe that that would be a good idea, right? Like, he has to be joking there, correct? Because here's the thing, if he's not joking, well, that means that he's completely deranged. If he is joking, however, then he's taking something that is bad, that he recognizes as bad, and equating it to the rest of his positions in a way. Like, either way you slice this, it's not something that a rational human being would say. Like, as I've said earlier, I think he's coming off as completely unhinged. I don't think it would take much for him to actually believe that the Earth was flat. And considering that he wants to go back to 1099, maybe he does believe that the Earth is flat. Maybe he believes that if he goes back to 1099, he'll be with his people, although, just a bit of a warning, the people in 1099 weren't flat earthers. You'll need to go back a further 2 millennia to be with people that believe that the Earth is flat. Anyway, I'm going to end this video here. I do apologise for exposing you to this level of numbnuttery, but I had to watch it, so you have to too. But surprisingly, there is more that Nick Fuentes says that is just baffling that anyone would say that. So if you do want to see that, let me know. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching.